Ginger Rogers finally talks about the famous dancer Fred Astaire. Ginger Rogers was born with the name Virginia Catherine McMath on July 16, 1911, in a town called Independence, Missouri. Her journey from a very lively young girl growing up in the middle of America to a super famous actress, dancer, and singer is a story made up of toughness, strong feelings, and amazing artistic skills. Raised mostly by her strong-willed and smart mother, Lela Owens Rogers, who later became her business helper, Ginger grew up in a place that said yes to being creative and being her own boss. It was in this supportive place that she found out she loved to dance, perform funny shows, and later make movies, starting a career that would last more than 50 years. Her getting famous began in the fun-filled 1920s when she won a Charleston dance contest at only 14 years old. That victory opened doors to traveling theater groups and later Broadway, where she amazed people with her natural funny timing and lively way of being on stage. Hollywood soon asked for her, and by the early 1930s, Ginger had moved on to movies, quickly becoming one of RKO Pictures' brightest young stars. Her big moment came when she was put together with a young dancer named Fred Astaire in the 1933 movie Flying Down to Rio. What began as just one small part grew into one of the most well-known movie teams in history. Together, Ginger and Fred changed movie musicals, mixing fancy dancing with feeling-filled stories. Their 10 films, including great movies like Top Hat 1935, Swing Time 1936, and Shall We Dance 1937, are remembered not only for their eye-catching art, but for the magical way they worked together that made them special forever. But wait, Ginger Rogers was way more than Fred Astaire's dance partner. Wanting very much to show she could be a serious actress, she looked for movie parts that showed her deep feelings as an actress. Her performance in Kitty Foyle 1940, in which she played a normal working-class woman trying hard with love, what she wanted to achieve and what society expected, won her the biggest acting award, the Academy Award for Best Actress. This great accomplishment made her known as a performer with amazing emotional smarts. Over the following years, she kept shining in an incredible number of movie parts, from comedies and musicals to serious dramas, radio shows, stage plays, and TV appearances, proving over and over that she could fit into any kind of acting with style and cleverness. Off the screen, Ginger was admired for her normal, down-to-earth charm and always-present hard work. She acted with quiet pride, caring about her freedom at a time when women in Hollywood were often forgotten because of the big studios that told them what to do. Friends and people she worked with often said she was warm, gave a lot, and cared strongly about her job. Even though she was super famous, she stayed modest, often saying her success was because of teamwork, never giving up, and being thankful for the chances life had given her. These good qualities made people all over the world love her, making her not only a favorite performer, but a symbol of old-time American beauty and never-say-die spirit. Ginger Rogers' personal life was full of relationships that showed both the fast pace of her career and the complicated things in her private world. During her lifetime, Rogers married and divorced 5 times. Each marriage showed a different part of her growing up as a woman trying to deal with fame, love, and being happy with herself. Even with her many marriages and close relationships, Rogers never had children, a fact that later led her to talk honestly about the things she gave up for her career and the very busy life in Hollywood. Her first marriage came on March 29, 1929, when she was only 17 years old, an age when most young women were still figuring things out. But Rogers was already a growing star with a fiercely independent mind. She married her dancing partner, Jack Pepper, who was born Edward Jackson Culpepper, whom she had met while performing on the traveling theater stage. Their partnership had a young and lively energy and a friendly team feeling, but the stress of travel, performing, and her quickly changing goals caused trouble almost right away. Although the marriage officially lasted until 1931, they separated soon after the wedding, and by the time Rogers' career began moving faster, their relationship had already disappeared into the background. Following her divorce, Rogers had a short but important relationship with Hollywood director and producer Mervyn LeRoy in 1932. Their romance happened at a crucial time in her newly starting movie career, but even with the good feelings between them, the relationship did not turn into a long-term thing. Still, their bond left a mark that lasted. The two stayed close friends for more than 50 years, keeping a rare and long-lasting connection that survive. The changing times of Hollywood until Leroy's death in 1987. In 1934, Rogers entered her second marriage, this time with actor Lou Ayres. Ayres, already well known for his role in All Quiet on the Western Front, understood Rogers' feeling of the pressures of being a star, and their marriage initially seemed like it would be good. However, as their careers pulled them in different ways and their personal wants changed, the relationship gradually fell apart. After 6 years together, they divorced in 1940, ending another very important part of Rogers' life. Her third marriage began in 1943 during the main part of World War II when she married Jack Briggs, a U.S. Marine whose military strictness and sensible personality offered a sharp contrast to the crazy energy of Hollywood. Their marriage was defined by long times apart because of Briggs' service and the things Rogers had to do for her work on screen. Although there was real love between them, the difficulties proved too great, and they eventually divorced in 1950. In 1953, Rogers married for the fourth time, starting a much-talked-about marriage with Jacques Bergerac, a charming French actor who was 16 years younger than her. Rogers met Bergerac during a visit to Paris where his smooth manners and European fancy style caught her attention. Before trying acting, Bergerac had been a lawyer in France. But after their marriage, he moved to Hollywood with Rogers and switched into an entertainment career. Although their relationship had an exciting beginning and brought a worldly style to Rogers' life, it was not meant to last. They divorced in 1957, marking the finish of one of her most glamorous partnerships. Her fifth and final marriage came in 1961 when she married director and producer William Marshall. Their relationship began with excitement about working together as they made movies together and tried to start businesses together, including a movie-making company in Jamaica. Sadly, the pressures of the movie business combined with Marshall's struggles with alcohol and the total failure in money matters of their company placed huge stress on their marriage. After nearly 10 years together, they divorced in 1970, bringing Rogers' long journey through love and marriage to its final moment. For many years, fans, movie historians, and dance lovers had guessed constantly about the real feelings between Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire, the legendary movie pair who wowed people throughout the 1930s and 1940s with their easy, beautiful style and seemingly magical way they worked together. Although Rogers had spoken nicely about Astaire throughout her life, she rarely offered the kind of very personal, secret thoughts that fans really wanted to hear. But in a rare, very honest moment later in her life, Rogers finally decided to speak up and share a more detailed, heartfelt story of what it was really like to work next to the man who helped make her career what it was, and whom she helped raise up to superstar Hollywood status. Rogers began by saying no to one of the most common untrue stories, that she and Astaire were not close or cold toward one another. People always thought Fred and I were just polite strangers who only came together when the camera rolled, she explained. But that was never the truth. We had a deep respect for each other, even on the days when we disagreed or made each other try harder with our creative work. According to Rogers, their partnership worked well not because they were exactly the same, but because they pushed each other to be better every single day. Fred had this super-focused desire to be perfect, she said, and I had a never-give-up attitude that was just as strong as his. When those strong points crashed together, sparks flew, not the kind people imagine, but the kind that make art feel alive. She described the very tiring practices that often lasted for hours, long after other performers would have said they were done for the day. Astaire was famous for always asking for countless takes until he was happy, and Rogers admitted that at times it could be totally exhausting. There were moments when I thought my feet simply could not move another step, she recalled. But then Fred would look at me with that quiet determination of his, and I'd find the strength to keep going. He never asked for anything he wasn't willing to give himself. Their equal devotion, she made clear, was the reason their dance numbers became timeless works of movie art, still watched and loved long after the time of black and white musicals had gone by. Rogers also understood the complicated feelings of their partnership, which was often made to seem more romantic by the public. People wanted to believe we were in love, she said, and in a way we were, just not in the way they imagined. We shared a creative love, a trust that allowed us to move as if we shared one single heartbeat. That kind of connection is rare, and I will always keep it special. While the two remained friends when they weren't filming, Rogers noted that their personal lives went in different directions, making the idea of a real-life love story impossible. Yet she never felt bad about the made-up story that surrounded them. Instead, she understood it as a compliment to the power of their performances. Reflecting on their years together, Rogers expressed thankfulness rather than wishing for the past. Fred taught me control, skill, and not getting angry easily, she said, and I like to think I gave him strength, jokes, and maybe a little bit of risk-taking. She stressed that unlike the idea that Astaire was in charge of every creative decision, their partnership was a lot of working together. I wasn't just following Fred's lead, she stated. I added ideas, steps, timing, everything, and he respected that more than most people ever realized. In her final thoughts, Rogers offered a feeling that summed up the specialness of their bond. We were two very different people, she said, but together we created something neither of us could have done by ourselves. Fred was my partner, my teacher, my challenger, and my friend, and I will forever be grateful for every step we danced. Through these rare, thoughtful words, Ginger Rogers finally gave fans the close-up picture they had always hoped for. A portrait not of Hollywood famous names, but of two artists who found greatness in one another. Ginger Rogers eventually settled into a way of life that showed both her love of being calm and her wish to stay close to the places that had made her who she was. In her later years, she split her time between two loved homes that offered her very different feelings and scenery. During the winter months, she lived in the warm, sunny community of Rancho Mirage, California, a desert paradise known for its peaceful feeling, mountain views, and reputation as a place for Hollywood legends to find privacy and comfort. Rogers found that the quiet desert setting suited her perfectly. It gave her a space where she could relax, think back on her long career, and enjoy a slower life surrounded by natural beauty and a small group of friends. When the seasons changed, Rogers would leave the California desert and spend her summers in Medford, Oregon, a place she truly loved. Medford offered a completely different kind of charm, lots of green plants, cool breezes, and a sense of small-town friendliness that reminded her of the good values she grew up with. She owned a ranch property there where she often welcomed guests, hosted community events, and found happiness in the simpler pleasures of country living. The difference between her two homes, one a fancy desert retreat, the other a peaceful Northwest haven, showed her many-sided personality and the balance she looked for between glamour and staying grounded. Rogers spent her final years moving gracefully between these beloved locations until her life came to an end. On April 25, 1995, in the comfort of her Rancho Mirage home, she died from a heart attack at the age of 83. The news of her passing was felt deeply across the entertainment world, as generations of fans and colleagues were sad about the loss of a woman whose elegance, talent, and ability to bounce back had helped define an important time in film and dance. Honoring what she wanted, Ginger Rogers was burned and her ashes were placed in their final resting place beside the person who had been her greatest source of strength from the very beginning, her mother, Lela Imogen Owens. Lela, who had strongly helped Rogers throughout her career, served as her manager, trusted friend, and constant supporter. The two were laid to rest together at Oakwood Memorial Park Cemetery in Chatsworth, California. A calm cemetery known for its beautiful grounds, and as the final home of many Hollywood famous people. Their being buried side by side showed a lifelong bond that had shaped Rogers' journey from a determined young performer to one of the most celebrated stars of the golden age of Hollywood.